Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my parents' basement, your parents' basement, our parents' basement, and today I'm talking about my favorite first-time watches of 2024. Before 2024 began, I saw a lot of people posting about their movie watching goals of 2023 and how people out there had wanted to watch basically a movie a day and had either failed or succeeded. And that made me want to start my own goal. And with being in college, I didn't know if I could meet the movie a day standard. So I wanted to watch at least a movie every other day. I wanted to hit at least the halfway mark of the year. I was even satisfied shooting really for 150. I wanted to be in the 150s for movies I watched this year. But somehow I pulled off an epic feat. I watched 370 movies, and there's still technically 2 days left of 2024. So hopefully I don't watch a movie that would have otherwise made this list. But I'm going to go over the movies that I watched this year that I watched for the first time. They didn't necessarily come out in 2024, but I just watched them for the first time in the year 2024. And of those 370, which were my top 20? I couldn't go top 10, it'd be too hard. I thought maybe going top 15, but that'd be too hard. And even still, I wrote down a list of the movies that were in consideration for the top 20, and I had over 50 on that list. So there's a lot of ones that I have a hard time keeping off, but just for personal reasons, I had to. And I would go over all the ones that, I want to mention, but then this video would already be too long as it is. So if you're interested, just comment below and I'll let you know some of them, or maybe I'll put them as a comment. I don't know. Just, we'll see how it goes. But if you're interested in knowing which ones didn't make the list, or my letterbox, I can let you know. I don't know my username off the top of my head, but I can give that stuff out if you guys are interested in having it. So without further ado, let's hop into this list of my top 20 first-time watches of 2024. So at number 20, it's Touch of Evil, Orson Welles' book adaptation. I think the original is called Badge of Evil or something along those lines. But basically there's a murder on the Mexican-US border, and Orson Welles' character is kind of a corrupt cop who takes on the case and who has very questionable means of catching the bad guys. And Charlton Heston plays, kind of controversially, obviously nowadays, he plays a Mexican policeman who kind of is caught in the middle of this whole. He's very well respected, but he's kind of caught up in the middle of this thing, and he doesn't necessarily agree with Orson Welles' techniques of handling cases. Orson Welles directs this movie very well. I know it was kind of chopped up and edited beyond what he would have desired for it, but he has a great performance in this. He's wearing prosthetics to make him look, I don't know, kind of like sluggish. And it's a great performance by him. Obviously, say what you will about the casting of Charlton Heston, very much of the 1950s. I think this movie was 58. So very much of the time, obviously. So you can say what you will about that. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of it, but, I got to look at it as it was in that time. Obviously, so say what you will about that. At least he doesn't do an accent. I think that was probably the best thing about it. He doesn't try and do like an accent. But overall, I really enjoyed that movie. It wasn't one of my favorites of the year in terms of like star rating, and I think there's a lot of better made movies, but something about it just really resonated it with me. And I always like, movies that kind of ask the question of morality. I just love movies that explore that ambiguous nature of some people. And so Touch of Evil's got to make my top 20 list. Like I said, although I think there were better movies, I gave other movies higher star ratings in terms of Letterboxd or in terms of my casual opinion. Something about Touch of Evil really just kind of resonated with me, stuck with me. Number 19 on the list, I actually have a YouTube video, ironically, that just went up for this. It's The Keep by Michael Mann. I bought this movie, never seen it before. You can watch the unboxing of the Vinegar Syndrome release of it. I originally bought it because I love Michael Mann. He's one of my favorite directors of all time. I love all his movies. That was one that I hadn't seen, and it was getting released for the first time on 4K and Blu-ray in a limited edition set, so I had to pick it up. And I know it's a cult classic. I was scared to watch it because I thought, oh man, is this like a movie that you have to kind of grow up with to like? Because there's been plenty of times where I've tried to watch a so-called cult classic, but it's very much of the time, of the era. You have to have had grown up with it to appreciate it. Luckily, it was not that. I adored this movie. I loved it so much. I was like, man, this might actually be like my top five Michael Mann movies. Um, you can tell that the studio chopped at the bits. They kind of kept in the bare minimum of what this movie had to be a coherent film. But of that, it's just so visually stunning and so breathtaking. And Michael Mann's thinking is a master. And I love this movie so much. Like I said, you kind of have to see what it is. You can't imagine what it was. You have to take it for what it is. So that's why it's going to be at number 19 for me. But I honestly really did love this movie. And Michael Mann directed my favorite movie of all time, Heat. So it had a lot to live up to. Obviously, nothing can surpass Heat, but this movie was fantastic. The Keep, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Who's that handsome devil? As you can see, I'm now editing this video that you're in. We're breaking the fourth wall. We're Inception here. I forgot number 17. In the moment. Not sure how that happened. But with that being said, you guys wanted a top 20. You demanded a top 20, so top 20 is what I'm going to give you. At number 18 is Pump Up the Volume. This is a movie that I kind of went into not knowing what to expect. Someone had posted it on YouTube in 4-minute increments in a playlist, so I watched it that way. Once again, this is talked about in actually my Christmas Blu-ray collection update. But anyway, really like this movie. Christian Slater plays a high schooler who hijacks this dead air, transmits this radio show that he does, where he talks about all different relevant topics for his fellow students at his high school. I thought it was a really relevant movie. I liked the topics that it touched on in this overall exploration of the teenage mind versus the parental mind, and kind of the boundaries of free speech, and kind of like this fight against corruption at the high school. So a very prevalent movie, I think, with its subject matter, especially for the time and still for today. And Christian Slater always thinking crushes it. Number 17 on my list of top 20 movies that I watched for the first time in 2024 is a movie that probably a lot of you have not ever heard of. It's Mr. Holmes. I think this was a 2015 movie. It stars Ian McKellen as Sherlock Holmes. Casting you probably would have thought would have been done sooner. But he plays an elderly Sherlock Holmes, kind of on the verge of dementia, living off in the boondocks, if you will, breeding bees, being a beekeeper, as he kind of reminisces over his last case, desperate to remember it and desperate to also find some remedy to keep his memories. This movie was, again, another movie that I really loved. Again, kind of with touch of evil. There were movies that I gave higher star ratings to. There were movies that might technically be better made movies, but I really love this movie. This is probably one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes adaptations, this right along next to Young Sherlock Holmes. I love this movie. I loved Ian McKellen as Sherlock Holmes. I loved how the mysteries all correlated, and how it was like a mystery without being like the traditional Sherlock Holmes mystery. Really respected that aspect of it. If you've never seen Mr. Holmes, I highly recommend it. Like I said, I really love so much about this movie, and Ian McKellen has such a softness to this performance, but like it's very nuanced, very beautiful. Great movie if you haven't seen it. Number 16 on my list is Killer Joe. Matthew McConaughey. I think it's a William Friedkin movie. I had never seen it before. I had just watched Bug, and I was kind of in the mood for another one of his films, and I put this one on, and I absolutely loved every second of it. Matthew McConaughey playing a very dark, seedy person that you just kind of want to hate, but you can't because it's Matthew McConaughey, and he's so charming and charismatic. Just loved, again, exploring that the ambiguous nature of some people. Matthew McConaughey plays a cop who moonlights as a hitman, and this family wants to kill their mother, or these children want to kill their mother, the husband, his ex-wife, for the money. Just a great falling out afterwards, but very, yeah, like your skin might crawl a little bit on this one, but I really liked it. Speak of the Devil, Anisha Appear. Number 15 is Bug. Mentioned that one in the previous listing with Killer Joe. I really loved Bug. I was on Tubi. Shout out to Tubi. Free streaming. You gotta watch ads, but they got great movie selections. So I watched Bug on there, and I absolutely was in love with it. Ashley Judd, Michael Shannon. It makes you feel so sick inside. Microscopic bugs. I mean, the delusions that these people fall to is such creates such sorrow and sadness. And people are actually, are like this. And just to see the lengths that they go and how Michael Shannon kind of corrupts Ashley Judd's character. Just a fascinating movie that I think about probably a little bit too often just because of all that stuff in it. But I was really blown away by that movie. And Kino Lorber just released a 4K transfer of this, so check this movie out by any means necessary if you can. So at number 14 on this list, we're going to actually hit the first movie on the list that came out in 2024. That is Civil War. I talked about this movie in my summer pickups earlier posted on this channel, so you can kind of check that out if you're interested. But like I said in that video, this movie was very controversial when it first came out, and not for the reasons that you'd think. I think a lot of people went into this movie, myself included, thinking it'd be some sort of social commentary on today's political society, the subculture that we have, the diverse kind of butting heads, this constant arguments that we see polluting social media and our personal spheres. But instead it was more so talking about journalism and war journalism and combat and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people were kind of caught off by that. I think a lot of people tried to read in between the lines for that political commentary that they originally thought was going to be there by go, oh, California and Florida are together, or is it Texas? I forget who it is, but it's like, there's nothing that they're really trying to say with that. It's just kind of like setting, it's more so a movie based in America, I think. So the major target audience for this movie, Americans, would have that kind of personal connection to it. But I like that movie. It was beautifully shot. It has great cinematography. I thought it was well acted. I really liked a lot of the symbolism in the shots. I loved the photography, the actual still black and white photos intercut in the film. So Civil War, I liked it. That's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people were, like I said, it was a very controversial movie for a month or so, where people debating about it. But I enjoyed it, so it's number 15 or 14 on my list. My 13th favorite movie that I watched for the first time this year is A Girl Walks Home at Night. I stumbled upon this movie on Canopy just very randomly. I said, what the heck, it's pretty decent length and I don't have much time. Let's get a movie in for today. Little did I know I was watching my favorite vampire movie ever. Note, I haven't seen Nosferatu by Robert Eggers yet, but I had recently watched a letterbox of some other vampire movie press where I think the director was talking about his favorite vampire movies, and this was on there. So when I saw it on Canopy, I had that correlation. I said, let's check it out. It's an Iranian film, shot in black and white, kind of taking on a neo-Western vibe, among many others, obviously horror. Really like this movie. Like I said, probably my favorite vampire movie that I've ever seen. And just love the vibes. I love the scene where she's playing music on her vinyl with the disco ball. I wish I could be that guy. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. So yeah. So at number 12, we're gonna have Godzilla Minus One. This was not a movie that I got to see in the theater. I had to wait till Netflix for this. But I absolutely love this movie. This is my favorite Godzilla movie that's ever come out. Granted, I haven't seen them all. One of the ones in that list is the Matthew Broderick one that I used to be obsessed with as a kid. But Godzilla Minus One, I love the themes. I love how we're finally back to a Godzilla that's about something and not just mindless explosions and boring human characters that we don't really care about, that are very so vanilla. I love this movie. I love the symbolism. I love everything about it. Just a fantastic movie all around. All right, guys, if you couldn't tell, all this talking is affecting my voice. Good thing that didn't explode. And also, I think the caffeine of this delicious black raspberry sparkling ice will help me get through the rest of this video. My number 11th movie that I watched for the first time this year was Furiosa. I've never been a huge Mad Max fan. I respect the series. I really like Road Warrior, and I'm one of those people that actually likes Beyond the Thunderdome. I don't like the first Mad Max pretty much at all, but I really like 2 and 3. It's been a really long time since I've seen Fury Road, so I really do need to rewatch that one. But I don't remember being in love with it. But then again, I watched it when I was like 14, 15. So I think I definitely need to revisit it. It's been almost 10 years at this point. But Furiosa, I really, really liked. I liked the direction. Obviously, it definitely was less practical than I remember Fury Road being, and definitely less practical than obviously the original trilogy. But that being said, I really liked Anya Taylor-Joy's performance. I really liked Chris Hemsworth as a villain. He played, I forget that guy's name, but he played him so over the top to just the right degree, just the right degree that I would expect in a Mad Max movie. So I really enjoyed that movie. Uh, Not much more to say. I know it didn't do that well, like most movies for some reason now that are actually really good. So I don't put that into account at all. But I really enjoyed that movie. It was everything that you would want it to be, I think, and so much more too. So now we're in the top 10 of the best movies I watched for the first time in 2024, and we've got another 2024 release on this list. It actually might be the last one. So, in other words, it's the best movie I think that came out this year. It's Dune Part 2. Who would have thought? Denis Villeneuve Strikes Again is a fantastic sci-fi epic. Timothée Chalamet's really good in it, actually. I'm still kind of shaky on his where he should be in terms of saying he's a great actor in like the realm of Leo DiCaprio and what have you. But this performance really kind of made me go, okay, maybe, because there's a lot more nuance in it. I like the different sides that he gives to Paul Atreides. I kind of see that darker edge coming out. It's like the second half of Godfather, you know? They were originally, the studio did not want Al Pacino in that movie. They were watching the dailies and they were saying this guy sucks. So Francis Ford Coppola filmed the scene in the restaurant, sent them the dailies, and they shut up because they saw. So I think that was kind of what I saw in this movie. I'm like, okay, Timothée Chalamet, you're here, and you're here to stay. It definitely warmed me up to him a little bit more, so I enjoyed Dune Part 2 a lot. Obviously, everyone else in that film was fantastic too. Great action. And I know that one guy on like Twitter who went to see it like 50 times. So I don't know why I mentioned him randomly. But no, I really enjoyed Dune Part 2. I think it was the best movie of the year. And just in general, just a great like sci-fi epic. So now that we're in the top 10, we're going to hit number 9. I believe this film came out in 1974. It is American Graffiti by George Lucas. This is the only George Lucas movie that I had not seen was American Graffiti, and I went a very long time without seeing it, obviously. I just didn't know if it was my vibe. I just felt so different than everything else he had done. But I watched it and I loved it. I don't know if I could pick a favorite George Lucas movie just because of how much I love this movie. It's so perfectly captures that era, that vibe. It feels like you're one of these teenagers in this group. It reminds me very much of how Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of recaptures that feeling. I think American Graffiti does so even more so. And like I said, it really puts you in the middle. Great performances all around. Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, just Harrison Ford. That Must Be Your Mama's Car. Just a really good all-around movie that I enjoyed a lot of aspects to. And I think, like I said, that is like a similar place that I was at that point in time. So to kind of see that be mirrored and replicated, just kind of struck a chord with me. So I really enjoyed American Graffiti. At number 8, we have another classic director. It's Stanley Kubrick, and it's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Dr. Strangelove, we know it as. I love this movie so much. I forget the actor's name, but he plays 3 parts. He's the president, he's the Nazi scientist, and then he's the one soldier guy that's with the deranged general. And I didn't know that the first time I watched it. I really did not know that. And it wasn't until afterward that I realized that he was all 3 parts. And then in Lolita, when he plays the same guy dressing up, I thought he was legitimately just playing different parts again. But I was wrong that time. But I love the Nazi scientist and his... I think when he stands up out of the wheelchair, that was actually that actor forgetting that he was supposed to be paralyzed. And he ad-libbed the "I can walk" part. Oh, it's so great. But I love his Hail Hitler reflex, and he tries to put his arm back down. Just a great comedy that I think everyone should watch. I just love. It's a great satire. Obviously, the iconic imagery. Just one of Stanley Kubrick's best works. Great film. Number 7, we got another classic, A Woman Under the Influence. This is a movie that a lot of people talk about, and I'm a big Peter Falk fan. I love Peter Falk. I think he's exceptional in, obviously, Columbo, his probably most famous role. And I really enjoy this movie. It's very it's kind of a punch in the gut, but he gives a performance that's so deep and vast, and just kind of like the nuance again. I say nuance a lot with these roles because there's a humanity. I mean, we're not you can't really define me as one specific thing. And I think that's essential to a great performance, that person isn't easily categorized into something. And that's a great portrayal. And I can't remember the actress's name, but she's a brilliant actress. It's in I think that movie's actually done by her husband, and they have a lot of collaborations together and with Peter Falk too, Mikey and Nikki. Or is it the other way around? I don't remember. But she's, again, stunning in this film. Just There's just such a powerful realism to that movie that I think is kind of overwhelming at times. And I know a lot of people were talking about how, okay, great, now I can never watch this movie again or something, because it hits you hard, and it makes me kind of want spaghetti. Let's get the vocal cords nice and clear. For number 6, we've got Martin Scorsese's Age of Innocence. The Age of Innocence. Daniel Day-Lewis, Winona Ryder, Michelle Pfeiffer. I didn't really expect to watch it or to like this movie that much. My sister had read the book, and I told her that Scorsese had an adaptation of it. So we kind of agreed to watch it together because I want her to watch more Scorsese films. And she really loved this movie, and so did I. At first I wasn't a big fan of the narration, but then I realized like that was necessary not to muddy up the dialogue that was so concise and to the point and so powerful too. Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the greatest actors of all time, great performance. Winona Ryder and Michelle Pfeiffer also give great performances, and I think they really show their acting capabilities, because I think they are vastly underrated as actors. Just all around really well directed movie. The one thing that does bug me though is that I noticed that the boom mic came into this shot a couple times as there was a scene where I could see the dolly track. So part of me was like, was this movie originally meant to be like widescreen or something? Because why does the boom mic keep dipping in like Plankton from SpongeBob is holding it? We are now in our top 5, and at number 5, we have another return of Martin Scorsese, After Hours. So this is, oh gosh, this might be one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies. No, I know for a fact it is. The only question is it my favorite? I love this movie. The main character, Paul, I think his name is, I kind of related to him a little bit too much. I loved how he just kept finding himself in another sticky situation, meeting constantly evolving worse people than the one he met before, ending up in a papier-mâché body cast. Again, that movie I talk about briefly in my summer pickups. I really love that movie. I knew that I was going to like that movie because people talk about it, and obviously that meme of the shark in the bathroom. But I really, really, really like this movie. It's under consideration for my favorite Scorsese, because I just loved how unique it was, but how also relatable it was. And I just liked so many aspects of it that that's probably going to be my most rewatched Martin Scorsese movie, because it's only 90 minutes, but it packs such a powerful punch. If you haven't seen After Hours, What Are You Doing? That is one of Scorsese's best works. At number 4, we got another classic, Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West. I had never seen this movie, and I said, you know what, you got to remedy that, you got to fix that, go watch it right now. And I loved that movie. It is a great movie. I overpaid for the Paramount Presents exclusive 4K of it. I know it's getting re-released with a standard 4K, but I'm still glad to have that version because, it's still that version. But Henry Fonda is absolutely incredible in that movie. Charles Bronson I actually really enjoyed too. Just a really great Western. I love how Leone takes the Western tropes but mixes it with his own style to create something so like familiar but unique. I actually prefer this to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and the other Man with No Name films. This is probably my favorite Western, and I just loved everything about it. It's a brilliant film. I love the train sequence. I love the final duel and the time that it takes to happen, but also you're still on the edge of your seat. It's like an 8-minute scene where only like 8 lines are spoken, but it's got you on the edge of your seat and you love it. I love how it comes full circle. It's just an all-around fantastic movie. Again, and this is one that if you haven't seen, definitely check it out. I'm upset at myself for waiting this long to see it, but I think at the same time, there's certain movies that I'm glad that I saw, even though maybe technically later in life than someone might otherwise have told me to watch it. I'm glad I waited till when I did, so then I think I can absorb it, and comprehend it a little bit higher, at a higher level than before. At number 3, Stanley Kubrick jumps back on the list. Paths of Glory. This might be my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie. Kirk Douglas gives a brilliant performance. I love the scene where he's walking through the trenches and it's cutting from like trailing him to like leading him, and you can see the explosions happening, and he's just got this stone face as other people kind of around him kind of hunker down. And I love how then it becomes kind of the first half is very much so like a World War I epic, and the second half is like a court movie, and I love it so much. Again, I think it might be my favorite Kubrick film. But then I think about movies like Eyes Wide Shut and The Shining and Full Metal Jacket, and then I'm like, oh, I don't know if it actually can be. And again, on the list we mentioned Doctor Strangelove. So, but I really love Paths of Glory. So at least for now, is probably my favorite Kubrick. But these change with the wind and with the tides. But I really liked Paths of Glory. Kirk Douglas, like I said, was fantastic in it. And I really, really liked that opening trenches, the whole first half in the trenches, and then the suspense, and it really picks up for the trial, and how Kirk Douglas is trying to fight for like a fair trial, but it's not going to happen. So now we are down to our top 2. At number 2, I have Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. I love this movie. I love Death playing the main character in a chess match while all these other various events happen. I gotta take a drink because I'm losing my voice. Everything that I would want out of a movie, this movie gave me. And I watched a lot of Ingmar Bergman movies this year, and a lot of them could have made this list. Wild Strawberries, Persona, Virgin Springs, but this one above them all really stood out to me, and it might be my top 10 favorite movies of all time, and it definitely is that number. Well, if it's your top 10 movies of all time, what could be number 1? But no, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a masterpiece on all counts. But we'll transition right into the number 1 movie that I watched for the first time in 2024. It's 12 Angry Men, the original Sidney Lumet, his first movie, again with Henry Fonda. This movie is timeless. I couldn't believe watching it for the first time, knowing it came out in the 1950s. How much of the themes still matter today. It was kind of scary. It was kind of sad and depressing, but it was also, I thought, important and powerful. The fact that you could return to this movie 70 years later and it still means something. And I love the blocking and the camera movements and the way the dialogue is sharp and snappy. If you're ever on a jury, don't do what they did. It's a lot of conjecture and a lot of circumstantial evidence. But it's still a fantastic, fascinating film, and Henry Fonda I love as the lead. And jury number 2, which I watched a couple days ago or so, I saw a lot in common with these two movies. 12 Angry Men is far superior in many ways. No offense to Clint Eastwood, I still did enjoy jury number 2. But 12 Angry Men is a fantastic movie. It has all the thrills of like a court movie, but also like a murder mystery movie. And like I said, the blocking alone is fantastic. And there's a scene specifically where this guy's going on this big tirade and rant, and one by one the characters get up and turn their back to him. And the way this shot is blocked to be this one long take, just fascinating stuff. And like I said, the dialogue is so quick and snappy, and the way things pile up, such like as in a murder mystery where the evidence comes back and they drop little hints and breadcrumbs that they return to later, and it really pays off if you're paying attention and you're being an active viewer. Netflix would hate this movie. But yes, 12 Angry Men is my number 1 movie that I watched for the first time in 2024. Had to watch it twice, had to pick up the Kino Lorber 4K. I love the movie so much. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. Sorry if it's a little bit long for your viewing pleasure, but I hope that nonetheless you found it enjoyable. Let me know in the comments below, what were your favorite movies that you watched this year? Give me your top 10, give me your top 20, give me your top 100. What was number 1 for you if you had to pick? How many movies outside of 2024 did you watch for the first time? Obviously, the majority of my list was not 2024 releases, but that's because I really tried to expand my horizons this year. And like I said, I watched over 370. So let me know what your favorite movies are of this year that you watched. Of mine, what do you think? And anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hit you with a cheers, and I say, make sure, like, comment, subscribe, do what you gotta do. Preferably do those things, like, comment, and subscribe. But if you don't do those things, I appreciate you just being here in general. But whatever you do, make sure that I see you here next time in my parents' basement, your parents' basement, our parents' basement. I hope that's something that you can cheer to. And remember, if you don't drink on a cheers, it's bad luck. So quick, go grab a drink. Quick, run. I'm not going to wait all day for you. Go. Okay, you got one? Okay. Bad luck not to drink on a cheer. So cheers to you. Thanks for watching.